Area Schools Board of Education to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kraus?
Here.
Dr. Chesney?
Here.
Mr. Stahl?
Here.
Mrs. Minor? Here. Mr. Trombley?
Here.
Mr. Conley?
Here.
Mr. Birchfield?
Here. Okay, next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
The motion support?
Support.
Any discussion about the agenda? I see none. All in favor of approving the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 7-0. Shining Stars, Dr. Drew.
We have two tonight. Let me start first with Scott Jacobs. Scott couldn't make it tonight, but Scott is one of our site superintendents from AUK Construction, and Scott is primarily in charge of Scranton and Hawkins. The reason we're nominating Scott specifically is because every single one of his projects so far has been absolutely on time, absolutely on budget, and he has probably more than anybody else I've ever worked with. Just every question I have for him, he is right on the money with it. Every time frame, he's right on the money with it. And in terms of actually completion, he has hit every date he's ever told me. So I think the bond project's going along very, very well, and this is definitely a highlight from it, this particular individual. And so we just wanted to recognize him tonight.
And I think he's a Brighton grad. I know he went to Hawkins.
Yes.
Elementary.
Yeah, he has definitely ties to Brighton. He has done a wonderful job. He's filled in also at the high school when people have been out. He's kind of their go-to guy when other people are gone, and he has just been absolutely incredible. So one of the best ones I've ever worked with in my entire career. The other one, I'd like to call up our athletic director, John Thompson, as he's walking up. Just a big congratulations from district administration, I know building administration as well, for our wrestling team, and John's going to talk about specifics, but I know a lot of these guys pretty well, and their accomplishments this year have just been outstanding, so I won't steal John's thunder, so go ahead, John.
Well, we might be able to find a few good things to say about a few great young men that we have the privilege of being with this evening. They were having their banquet when we did the rest of the winter. Student athletes, shining stars. But at this time, I'd like to ask all of our wrestling team members that are present and coaching staff to come on up. So I would offer my personal congratulations to this group of young men, because I would tell you they have accomplished not only a great thing that will, forever be remembered in Brighton, but they did it the right way. When we talk about hard work, when we talk about demonstrating class, when we talk about giving back, this group of young men won a state championship for the community of Brighton and Brighton High School because they have all those attributes. And I would tell you, I couldn't be prouder. They overcame every challenge. They challenged each other to step up their work ethic. They picked up each other in the classroom. This group of young men not only brought home a state championship in the sport of wrestling to Brighton High School, but they were also academic all-state, where the threshold's a 3.2. Our team GPA was a 3.4. So that's a collective effort where every wrestler is measured by. And we couldn't have accomplished that great goal without everybody doing their job in the classroom as well. We had 10 state qualifiers for the individual tournament out of the lineup of 14, and actually we had 2 at the 215-pound weight class. So I'm going to read through all of our team members' list, and I'll touch on our individual qualifiers and how they fared in the individual tournament as well. But so representing us on the mats this year was the senior Kyle Bonesack. He was an individual state qualifier in the 130-pound weight class and finished 8th in the state of Michigan. Nick Brish, a senior, qualified 171 and he was a state champion at 171. So congratulations to Nick, without a doubt. Jacob Curdy was a freshman on our team this year. Great effort by him. Eric Conquest, who qualified for the individual tournament at 215 and placed fourth. We almost had a first and second all Brighton finals match with Lucas Reddy, who we'll touch on here in a moment as well. So great year by Eric. Patrick Dowd, who came back and joined us as a senior and certainly contributed in an outstanding fashion. Lee Grabowski, who's a sophomore, represented us at the individual state finals at 112 pounds. And he was also the young man that stepped up in the final match of the Division I team state finals and came through in the clutch. So great representation by a young man who's got a lot more ahead of him. Eric Hallinan, who's a freshman. Jack Ireton, a freshman. Stephen Kessler, who was one of our German foreign exchange students. And he was a great part of the group as well, brought a different dynamic to the team and much appreciated. Christian Kiesgen, a junior. Tanner Matchkey, a senior, who also placed fifth in the state of Michigan in the individual finals at 152 pounds. Daniel McCarthy, a senior, who sacrificed for the team and was able to put himself in the lineup in a spot where we needed that lineup filled. And that's one of the keys to us collectively being where we ended up at the end of the season. So we appreciate that effort as well. A junior, Grant Morrison, who also qualified as a state placer at 119. Bo Mauer, a senior, who finished fourth in the state of Michigan at the 160-pound weight class. Kyle Patmore, a junior. Pete Plummer, a junior. Jose Ramos, a senior. Lucas Reddy, who qualified at 215, and he was the state champion at the individual finals for us as well. So great effort by Lucas. Jackson Reneker, a junior at 119, qualified for individuals and finished fifth. So a great season for that young man individually and as a team. Ryan Salmon qualified for the state finals individually at the Palace as well at 119 and finished fifth. Where are we? Dylan Schraggy, a freshman. Nick Seguin, a sophomore. Matt Simon, a sophomore. Nick Smith, a senior. Jacob Soup, a sophomore. Seth Soto, a sophomore. Christian Staworski, a sophomore. Mike Toth, a sophomore. And Matt Wadenstor, a junior, and Ben Yar, who was a sophomore, made up our Brighton Bulldog varsity wrestling team that brought home the first ever Division I state championship in the sport of wrestling to our community and to our schools. So congratulations, gentlemen. We're extremely proud of you.
Mr. Krause, just before they go, just one thing that I didn't mention out of the gate. They wouldn't have won the state championship though, obviously without parent support, but we have assembled the best coaching staff, I would say, in the state of Michigan. We brought Tony in a couple of years ago, and he has brought in his guys in terms of the team. I'm not in the room as much as Miles, but I've been out in the room a couple of times, and those guys are working hard. Thank God they're young, and they get after it with those kids. They're very positive. Tony's a teacher at our high school and at Spencer Elementary, and he was a phenomenal hire. At a time where we weren't really paying steps in that, we went out and got him, and he has done a wonderful job here. His wife's also at our senior center doing a great job. So they don't win it without, obviously, parent support, but they don't win it without those coaches either. Those coaches deserve their own round of applause.
go instead of stick around. You're welcome to stay. It's very exciting. I come every 2 weeks. It is. Only in your mind. I'm here. Continuing on, this is a time we have for call to the public. If you'd like to address the Board of Education, you can do so at this time. Please come to the podium, state your name and address, and please address your comments to the board. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Margaret Adams, 11132 Winthrop, Brighton, Michigan. I'm a Brighton resident, but also a very proud Brighton teacher. I'm one of the media specialists in our district. Today I got to school and there was a box of probably 75 headphones, earbuds, to go with our new technology donated by the Running Lab. So I just wanted to publicly thank the Running Lab for that contribution. We don't have enough headphones in the building for all the new technology that's coming into the classrooms. I have headphones in the lab, but I don't have them for their classrooms. So we've been asking the kids to bring them in, because if you've ever been in an elementary classroom, 30 iPads all going off at the same time is not a fun thing. So the kids have been really great about bringing them in, but we do have some families that haven't been able to send them in. So this donation was greatly appreciated, and a great surprise to come back from break, find a box of 75 headphones sitting on my desk. So thanks to the Running Lab. And to our teacher, Renee Aubert, who works actually for the Running Lab. So she was the one that got the donation for us.
I'm in there all the time, so I'm buying stuff for my wife.
I am not a runner. Does anybody else want to address the board at this time? I see no one, and that'll end our call to the public. Next section up is board reports. Anybody have any board reports? Ms. Meyer.
I do. Something we talked about at the workshop was that if we're on a committee, then we'll give a formal report. As I am the board liaison to the Health Advisory Committee, Dr. Suri asked me to attend the Regional Coordinated School Health Committee meetings. This committee is comprised of educators from Livingston and Washtenaw counties. Chris Nelson and Barbara Williams from Brighton also attended. The meeting was held at LESA on March 25th, and the next one will be held at WISD on May 18th. A survey was given to members at a previous meeting, and results were discussed. The whole school, child, and community model was presented. This model calls for better alignment, integration, and collaboration between health and education to improve the cognition, physical, social, and emotional development of each child.
Thank you, Dr. Minor. Anybody else have a board report?
Yeah, the LCASB had an annual meeting on April 1st from 6 to 8:30, and it really was pretty phenomenal. It was very interesting. First off, the dinner was prepared by a culinary arts class, and it was really exceptional. It was absolutely outstanding. Then Superintendent of LESA, Dan Donosky, presented on Proposition 1, gave us a little bit of input and insight on that, and it is indeed a very confusing proposition. And then we had a short business meeting where we had approval of a financial statement, and then finally the largest part of the meeting is Dr. Tim Jackson, the CTE director for Livingston County, presented on just the different programs that we have going. It was really an evening well spent, and I would recommend anybody. It was a good opportunity to mingle with other board members from the different school boards in Livingston County, and it was a well spent evening. So I would recommend it to everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Khan.
A couple items. I also attended that meeting in Howell, and I thought it was pretty good. Dr. Jackson basically broke the barrier on the misalignment of where the schools had been going regarding putting students to work versus what we had been doing in the past. And he didn't hide it. He said that we were off target, and he said that some people weren't going to want to hear that. But it's been several years that I feel, working towards that discussion, and I feel positive that we're heading in a direction that we can make repairs, because if we admit to our faults, we can certainly do better in the future. And I felt that's what that meeting represented. I thought it was more than just a get-together. Pretty much all the superintendents were present, and I think it carried out pretty well, and a lot of school board members. Also, this is the time of year, I raised 3 children, and I have 2 girls and a son, and Livingston County Sheriff's Department is putting together a distracted driving program called Teen Distracted Driving Initiative. My kids, I sent them to the Michigan State Police. They have a driving school in Lansing, and they took several of their friends with them, and they went up and spent a day on the test track and had a state police officer and behind the wheel with them for the first little bit, and also in the classroom for an hour. So I think the kids were on the track for 7 hours in Lansing, my kids were. And anyway, I met with the sheriff on this, so what I'd like to do is I'll give this data to Star, and maybe she could get copies to all the board members, and possibly the superintendent could put this in the Friday newsletter. And it has numbers on here where we can get a hold of the sheriff's department to be closer for our kids here in town, in the county. And I think it's a great initiative. And right now is the time to get out to the students. I recall with the state police program, we had to sign up in January or February to get them in for July. So they fill up pretty quickly. So we'll try to fill up the Livingston County program with Brighton kids and everybody who wants to take place in it. It's a good program. And what else did I have? I had one other item. I had sent in the Head Start email our oath of office, and just as a reminder, and I believe Star, everybody here has had an oath of office, correct? We've all taken it. And in that oath of office, it talks about that we affirm that we will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of our state, which is Michigan. And I would just like us all to kind of remember that as we go forward. There's a couple things that I'm addressing specifically with this. One is how we bring things to the board. There's a certain procedure that this board has used since it's basically, I think, its foundation. I've asked people that have been on it and talked to them. It talks about bringing things up, discussing it, putting it on the agenda for future action, for discussion, and then putting it up for a vote. In most recent months, weeks, we put things up for action and almost instantly voted on it. And I don't support that. There's no hurry here. There's supposed to be a time given for discussion, time given for thought, and then we would vote for it. So in our oath of office, we basically say that we're willing to do that for the best interest of everybody concerned. And I don't see how putting things on the agenda, sliding them through in 2 minutes and approving them is in the best interest of everybody. So I'd like to change that now. I'd like our president to give guidance to our board.
Okay, well, I'll look into that and I'll post something.
Yeah, that's fine. And I think that's it for tonight.
Thanks, Jim. Anybody else have any?
Just a report from us, just a remembrance for you. Notice of 2 special meetings coming up. We'll post them in the normal way that we have to do it by law, obviously, but Wednesday, April 22nd, 4 p.m. accreditation exit review, and Saturday, April 25th, 9 a.m. for our next board work session. That is 9 to noon. So those 2 dates, and we'll obviously communicate them ahead of time, but we wanted the public to know as well, and we'll post them in the normal location.
Great, thank you, Dr. Ray. Anybody else, board reports? Nope, all right, thank you. Next up is our 4 action items, and first item is minutes of the March 23rd and 28th meeting. Do I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Support?
Support.
Got a motion and support. Any discussion on those minutes?
Yeah, I have one amendment.
Okay.
Just on the bottom of page 7. And these are, it says, also, he announced he will hold informal meetings for students and parents on Mondays from 2 to 4. Can you put the word many before Mondays? Basically, I don't want the implication to be that I'm going to be at BHS every Monday, because I cannot do that. I can be there many Mondays, and those will be pre-announced, but I won't be there on every Monday.
Okay.
Oh, I got it.
We have a motion for the amended minutes.
I so moved.
Support for the amended minutes.
One more.
One more, okay, let's,
It's the first page, at the top, it's nitpicky, but there's an extra B on board, small b, maybe.
We're on
Detail.
very top.
Very top.
Wow.
You read everything, don't you?
Okay. Yeah, really. Okay, so now we have the second amendment. Do we have a motion to approve the amended minutes?
So moved.
We have support.
Support.
We have motion support. Any more discussion? All in favor of passing the amended minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 7-0. Next item up is public participation.
We
Oh, do you have to do them separate, Star?
Do we have to do
The
what?
minutes, both of them separate, I did them as one.
No, they can.
Oh, they can do it as one, okay. Next up is the public participation. Change to policy 0167.3. Dr. Gray, do you have any additional information to add to that? I don't know.
I do not.
There was a couple clarifying questions that were asked at the beginning, so I know Mr. Trombley had a few. I don't know if Mr. Chesney, because you kind of spearheaded bringing this to the board, maybe you can.
Yeah, I think what happened is that basically it was in the for future action and then was moved to for action. And the items related to the modification we decided not to make were also carried through. Okay, so it might read a little bit confusing, but I believe the only motion that's on the table is quite simply the removal of item I on the back. So it's removal of I that says the portion of the meeting which the participation of the public is invited shall be limited to 30 minutes unless extended by vote of the board. But that just goes away. That is the single modification.
And then the
to
one
existing
below it
policy.
that said something similar, that's gone too, that's not.
Well, these were, the stuff in yellow were, that was what I call the nuclear
The
option.
other option, got it,
Yeah.
okay.
So the only modification to the existing policy is elimination of I. And it's that simple. So
Okay.
the stuff in yellow should be considered null and void.
Okay. Is that clear? We all,
I would make that a part of your motion, though, just so it's very clear.
okay.
Can I ask
Yep.
a question?
No.
Just to clarify, in other words, rather than the portion during the first call of public, now it's, is that what I'm getting? So before it was the portion of the meeting during which the participation of the public invited shall be limited. It was general across the board, first and second were included. So now we're just including the first portion? Is that the idea of that?
No, they're both gone. Both of those comments
They're
are
both gone.
So
Yes.
I that's not highlighted is gone, and then anything in yellow is not part of the new policy.
Gotcha.
Right.
Thank you.
That was the second option.
So the policy, or the proposal should read quite simply, remove 0167.3.I, which states the portion of the meeting during which the participation of the public is invited shall be limited to 30 minutes unless extended by vote of the board.
That's being removed.
That is being removed.
That's your motion.
That is my motion. Is
Support?
that clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Support? Okay, motion and support. Any more discussion?
Hold on, Star didn't get that.
I was trying to, who moved it?
Dave.
Okay, and who supported?
Bill.
Mr. Conley. Any more discussion? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That passes 7-0. For future action, Dr. Gray, administrative contracts.
We'll recommend at the next meeting that you approve these 2-year contracts for the administrators listed below. If you have questions in the meantime, feel free to let me know.
Thank you. School of choice programs, 2015-16 school year.
We'll also ask in the next couple of weeks for you to approve unlimited school of choice programming for students in grades J, K through 12. We're going unlimited because we need to continue to backfill larger graduating classes than smaller incoming classes. If you look at our trend, we have 4 years left of 500 plus classes. Then they all drop down to the 410 to 430 range. In terms of population, I had a superintendent's meeting today, and if you add up the next 13 years in Livingston County, you could see a decline of 10,000 students countywide. And it's primarily based on birth rate. It's not based on move-in, move-outs. We have people move in, and they typically don't leave. They stay in Livingston County for long periods of time, 'cause it's a nice place to live. But birth rates, and based on our SEMCOG information that we pulled when we did the bond as well, holds true. Unless we were to receive, I would say, significant neighborhoods in the future, which I don't think there's a ton of vacant land for in the Brighton area. I think you're going to see that 420 to 450 number pan itself out. We can influence that with school of choice. We obviously do it with excellent programming. I don't think it will offset the county numbers in terms of decrease. We'll just all be taking from each other, just like we have for 20 years now. But that's why we're going unlimited. That unlimited allows us throughout the summer, especially in August, to fill those gaps in terms of our enrollment. And when we give a projection in the next cycle for the budget for you for the 15-16 school year, we factor that in the larger graduating class and the smaller incoming class when we do those numbers.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. For information, curriculum instruction, Dr. Curry.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to move over to this because I need the projector and I'm hoping I can use the one that's here already. Change, right? Not gonna do this. Just give me a second. Wanted to share with the board tonight, we have an accreditation visit coming up with Advanced Ed, and I wanted to share with you some of the data that we've been pulling together, just as mostly to give you a sense of where to look if you're curious about where these things are. Should take a moment or two to. Nice cast of color there. Why it's like that, because it's not like that here. Anyways, on the far right, where you see the buttons, the Advanced Ed button, everybody sees that Advanced Ed button. If you click on that, this is where we're storing all of our data that the Advanced Ed NCA folks, the visiting team is going to look at when they come. And you're going to see, hold on, here's see. Anyways, we've listed all the accreditation reports are here. I'm not going to click on each of these things, but the self-assessment report is when we rated ourselves along those 5 standards. And what I gave the board at the workshop was just the narratives from those standards, but if you want to see what we've actually rated ourselves, and some of the evidence that we just checked boxes, it's so much paper, I didn't want to print it all for you, but that's what's in the self-assessment report. And again, at the workshop, you got that as just the narratives, and that was 6 pages in itself. But then you see a lot of documentation. All of these things have been updated just this spring. Then within, under demographics, there's a ton of data in here, and just to give you a sense, oh, that's too big. Staffing data, total FTEs, I mean, there's, won't go through all this, but it's all in PowerPoints is the point. Enrollment data, there's charts for that. Again, if you go in there, if you're curious, or if as you're doing the your work that in the next Saturday and 2 Saturdays from now, as you can see, we have there's a lot of data for you to take a look at. So let me see how to get okay, so, and then is the achievement data. And again, I won't open all these, but you can see there's a lot of different areas, and like I said, and that's 5 years of data, and it's all in PowerPoints, so it's all data that can be easily understood in just one slide at a time. I know the visiting team will look at that, but what I wanted to draw your attention to is down here at the bottom, which we also have to survey, and we put over 2 years of surveys. The top 3 there, it says community, parent, and staff. Those surveys are for the Advanced Ed. The bottom one is the one I want to share with you tonight. It's the curriculum survey that we did last fall, and I'm going to do a second round of this in the after the visit. It's probably going to be in sometime in May. So it's kind of beginning of the year, end of the year. And with this survey, what we ended up doing is we surveyed just parents. We looked at, and this is our response rate, which is advanced ed says 20% parent response rate is good enough, so we'll take that. It's not super strong, but we're over the 20% limit that they require. All the surveys were emailed to all of our parents and then posted on our website, Dr. Gray's letters. And I'm gonna just, I'd like to take a moment, share some of this with you. I'm gonna have to make these smaller probably, but so you can get the whole thing on the screen. All right, so this particular slide shows parent satisfaction with our curriculum in this past fall. So it's probably gauging kind of their experience last year and the first 12 weeks of this year. And as you can see, the top is BAS total, then there's the high school, it drops down. And the two on the right, just to help you orient yourselves, the two colors to the right, like at the top it's 67% and 23%, that is agree and strongly agree. So parent satisfaction with our curriculum program so far this year, as you can see right across the board, very strong. One of the things that pops out to me right away is the number of strongly agree at Brighton High School. Everybody's right around the right balance there. And so that's the first one, just wanted to share. Then we went through and looked at, as a parent, I am satisfied with this blank program or structure at Brighton High School, and we listed the different things to take a look at. So dual enrollment all the way down to our honors programs. And again, the farthest two things on the right would be satisfied or strongly agree. One of the things that struck us, we had one of our choices was I don't have enough information about this to say anything, to comment, or to cast a vote. And as you can see, some of our dual enrollment, our work study program for credit, online learning, and career tech, and student support a little bit. We had a number of parents, high percentage of parents that said, I don't know enough about this to say anything, which is good, because if you don't have that question, you have people just saying, oh yeah, good, bad, whatever, and it will kind of skew the response. So I know on that Saturday you're going to take a really close look at this, but this is Scranton, the same sort of setup. Okay. And then the striped lines there for their online and middle school classes for high school credit. A lot of parents said they didn't know enough to comment. And these could be 7th grade parents just kind of coming into that. Maltby, that wasn't one of their question choices, so they kind of got forced into making more of a decision, which of course affects I think the validity of the responses, but it still opens itself up to some good discussion. What's one of the nice things about it, you're going to see this with all of our, across the board, we have most of our parents are saying we agree or strongly agree that student support is in place. So our RTI model, that's not an area of need where they're going to say, yeah, we want you to put more attention there. But you can see, was this Maltby, media technology, they like to have more technology courses. World language has over 30% of the respondents not satisfied. So, and you get down to elementary and same thing. So I'm going to move quickly because I don't want to take very much time with this, but then we asked them where they thought the most critical areas of need are. And for high school, and it's very balanced. This is just out of 100% of the respondents, and so everybody it fell all across the board, but I think what jumped out, parents, the idea of working for credit and getting that work experience was appealing. More online courses was low. Changed to a seventh period day was very low. And actually what's more important is the satisfaction of the 6th period day. The satisfaction was very high in the previous slides. And then what else is up there that's, AP and honors. I just feel like some of the things that we put a lot of efforts into for the last 6 years, maybe it's showing us that we're meeting that need, or we have met that need, and now there's some other things that, and by the way, as you look at data, as we always say, this doesn't tell you anything, it's just a data point. So it's for you all to kind of get together that Saturday and then say to Dr. Gray and I, here's what we want you to do next. Do another survey or pull in a group of parents and do a focus group on that, or however you want to do that. I thought Scranton was kind of a little bit more definitive with some concerns about An area needing attention is their elective course model. And parents always want honors courses like honors English at the middle school. But that's not the same thing as more high school credit courses. That's a separate question, and that's actually lower. So either we met that need or there's something else going on there and we'll need to look at. An interest in career tech, looks like student support is being met. At Maltby, I thought it was very interesting, more electives or encore options, and again, more enrichment and some technology and
What's an encore option?
Oh, encores
Elective.
is specials.
Elective
What-
specials.
Yeah, art, music, PE.
Okay.
And then at the elementary, these were their choices. I didn't, I just didn't leave that open. I gave them choices, and basically things that we're thinking of programming or we are in the midst of programming for. So again, nice to see that people are saying, yep, we've got the student support thing down. And the last part, and looking at the next level, we asked parents, as a Scranton parent looking at Brighton High School, and there's also there's an orchestra question here for Scranton, because we are looking at that as well at some point at our middle school and our intermediate school perhaps. So we see a lot of parents saying increased high school AP honors, because maybe they don't know what it is, but there's some, they say, yeah, we want that at the high school. That's not for Scranton. And then also career techs came out very strong there. Okay, and then for Maltby, basically, there's a lot of support for full year world language. There's a question about orchestra or strings there as well. A lot of interest, lots of interest in career technology or STEM is another way of looking at that at Scranton. And like I said, they always want more honors classes, more enrichment. Okay, and then the last one, looking as an elementary parent towards Maltby, they're very interested, again, technology, STEM, and also year-long world language. So we're expanding that current one that we have. Okay, so I won't give you a quiz on how to find this stuff, but now you know where it is, and all those other PowerPoints are similar to this. It has a lot of stuff in it, it takes time to look through it, but I just wanted to draw your attention to that because the curriculum office has been busy trying to get that posted, because that's available for the public as well then. Okay, do you have any questions? Mrs. Minor?
Many of the parents wanted more career options for their students. Would you ever survey those parents to find out what they're thinking about or what they have in mind? What does career
Sure.
mean to them?
That would be a great question. And again, like I said, after you have your next workshop, I think you'll have some marching orders for us, and we'll start trying to get some of those answers.
Okay, thank you.
And I have a question too. Was the question asked, what would you like to have? Or here's an idea, would you like to have it? And it listed, so as an example, the orchestra, did it say, would you like to have orchestra? Or did it say, would you like to have blank? And
Well, there was a question on there that was for an open comment or open response, and
Yep.
say in terms of curriculum, what's the one area, or what's an area of need, the greatest area of need, and so that was a free fall for all.
Right.
And so none of those things were necessarily linked, although they did come up, like world language came up a lot
Right.
at the elementary, on technology and things, but, so, yeah, we gave them, like, here's our direction, here's where
Yes.
we're going, what do you think about it? Or here's some things that are already sort of getting in place, what do you think about it? But there were also opportunities for them to tell us what they really were interested in.
okay, thank you. It's really a lot of excellent data. I mean, it's really a lot of good stuff to look at.
I think it's very interesting, at least to get it started.
That's why I was going to ask. So what drives our desire to do this survey finally? What brought this around and why are we doing it?
Well, very simply, we were always talking about following a more careful process, that we feel like the district is recovered from a lot of things in terms of a lot of focus of, we've got to meet this need, immediate need, and of course the finances was a big part of that, but there were a lot of needs also in curriculum, I think 6 years ago, and so it's never comfortable for me personally to rush through a decision. I'm sorry, some people like to see me go faster, but I like to know that this is the right thing that we're moving forward with. So this was really coming from me in the fall saying, I want to know what people think, what this community thinks about where we should be going next as a district, and are we in the right place now? Because it's two things. We can have mid-course corrections, but again, I'm not going to change our program over one slide or 10 slides, but we are going to take this, do a second one, compare that data, and then I'm very interested in having some focus groups and talking with parents at all levels and make sure we're building the school that the community wants at every level.
And I'd piggyback on that, John, in terms of you always do this survey as you're starting a new strategic plan, because this is what you build into the strategic plan, and you can almost chart what's happened in a school system if you go back and read their strategic plan. So every 5 years, because you can't turn a battleship this big in a bathtub in less than 5 years. You just can't. You can make tweaks that do it. I think the other thing that kind of lines up with this is the Michigan Merit curriculum is changing, and you've heard lately CTE and STEM becoming a big buzzword out there in terms of what's coming. The other piece of that is the requirements for the Michigan Merit curriculum are adapting and changing. They're loosening up to what we've asked for the last 5 to 7 years, and instead of turning out everybody as an engineer, allowing us to articulate more classes that fall into the CTE category and still allow kids to graduate with the option to go on to a great job in a great paying area so that they can actually support themselves. So I think all those things coming together are what are producing those results.
I have a question on that. Do our other school districts in the area, are they producing the same data? In Livingston County, are they
I would say be similar in Livingston County, because Livingston County is pretty homogeneous.
I agree. So I'm just saying
I would say our county's the same. If you were to do this survey across the state, I think you'd see STEM would come up consistently. Foreign language would come up consistently. That's been a buzzword for almost a decade now. And AP classes would always come up because a lot of times the people that complete the surveys, they want the AP classes, so that will always come up. It's just what we do with it at that point. I think the focus groups are important because just like the MEAT test, this is, or whatever they're calling it now, this is a snapshot in time, and we need to delve deeper into this to see what it means. Once we know what it means, we can make adjustments.
That would be my next thing. So if we're a standalone school in our district that's paying this much attention to this trend, then that puts us in the leadership role and attracting that number from I think I was thinking back when I graduated from Brighton in 1980, it was around 400 students. So we're heading back to a neighborhood. When I was here, well, how many students graduated from Brighton High School? How many were when you graduated?
365.
Yeah, so it's, done its little
Yeah.
up and down. And so, but in a nutshell, I mean, you gotta, I'll just put it how I see it in the racing business. When you unload the car and it really is tuned right, and it only looks good and it runs good, it kind of works the same. We show up at these big shows to do that. So in education, the same thing. I have no problem when you're doing the job, letting people know you're doing it. I don't want to go out and say we're not. If we're not doing something, I don't want to go out and say something that's not true. But I would, refer that back to Laura and how that can be used in our strategic plan and marketing campaign on the issue that the school board is willing to address each change in what the district needs and what our industry needs. Because like I said, I heard it come out of Dr. Jackson for the first time since I've been involved in this. He made a mindset change. And I feel that it's been an uphill battle for several years to get what I thought as a school board member and a citizen in the school. Oh, can't do this, can't do this. I heard it so many times already. And I know that the model has changed. I know that the administration, as well as our leaders within the schools, are a little more open-minded, and I understand the reasons to have a narrow track on it, but it's clear to me, and I think that our students' health in the end of this is so important, and that we address this very seriously for them. They can leave this school and earn a living, pay for college, not become so indebted. I have a lady that worked for me approximately 10 years. She left her student loan debt at $180,000. She passed her bar exam, but I recall it was about $180 grand, and that's just unbelievable. And she, is taking care of her husband and her daughter and so on. But the long and short, you get personal experience, and you say, well, what could we do that creates a little better model? And maybe they leave school with $50,000 in debt, not $180,000, if that's what it is, because they have these skills. So I think that we can do a great job. I think we have the ability to do it.
The one impression I got from the entire survey, which I thought was I probably could have predicted it, but it was very telling, is that our parents want a really high-quality, rigorous program, K-12. And they, you know, like I said, they're saying, you got the student support there, plenty of that, you've done a good job building that. There's other things that they're looking for now, but really, especially in their comments, the comments about, you know, they want their kids pushed. It's not, and they don't necessarily want honors for every, you know, they want every classroom to be high quality, you know. So it was a good survey. Comments are good, and I'll share those with you at that. I'll leave them here for you for that meeting.
I think it's exciting stuff. I think it's great.
Thanks, Dr.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh, and also the M-STEP's going on. I don't know if you guys want to know that, but the state test, the new test is happening and
More tests?
rolling out. First one this year, but it's a kind of a rolling test thing. It's all paper and pencil this year in Brighton, and no glitches today. Thank you. That's it.
Thanks, Dr. Sir. Finance, Dr. Gistinger.
Yes, good evening, Board. You have in your packet the bills of March 20th through April 2nd for your review. And then moving on to financial strategy, I'll turn it over to Dr. Chesney.
I only have one slide tonight. No.
Yeah, well, he said that's the finance question, and hopefully it doesn't turn out green like it was a minute ago.
I'm just noticing every time we do this, there are bills for the auto shop. I'm just curious, did we ever set something in the budget for this kind of stuff? Okay.
The auto shop, most of the renovations and equipment are coming out of the bond. The board set a limit when we agreed to engage in this project, and we are coming close to hitting that limit that the board set.
I guess I'm looking at it says supplies auto shop. Is this all part of the bond work, or is
It
that?
depends on what you're looking at.
Looking
What
at the
page?
check register.
What page are you on?
I'm on 3 of 6, 27.
Supplies would probably be in Rocky's general budget.
That's
Are you
what
looking at
every year-
CarQuest Auto Parts?
Right.
That's coming out of an internal account. So it's a trust and agency account from a fundraiser that our students generated. It's not coming out of the general fund or bond dollars.
Perfect. Well, I'm just wondering the sustainability of it, because I want it to happen. I just was curious.
Oh,
how
yes.
it's being done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Chesney.
So, always focusing on financial strategy. And as we cross the line from deficit into positive fund equity, I think about this slope that's going up and the red piece of the pie that's in there. And the red piece of the pie takes us from, 0 fund equity up to 10% fund equity. And I think, as a board, that we should try to make a knowledgeable, informed decision as to how big we allow that piece of the pie to be. And not necessarily tonight, but just over the period of the next month or so. Once we hit that line, everything changes. And I think we need to know what the limits are going to be to that red wedge that's up there before we move on too far. And so
What was the 10% strive for 10% fund equity?
the 10% fund equity, I believe that was 6.3, 5.3?
6.2.
6.2.
So wouldn't that reflect those red pie-shaped,
No.
or no?
The green line, the green horizontal line represents the 6.2. That was meant to represent the 10% fund equity. Okay, and the slope, the black line going up is if we just saved, that would be the growth of that fund. So what I'm saying is that once we get above that line, we do have some ability to put money towards educational experience, towards retirementable debt, but I think we need to limit how big that wedge is, because I think what's going to happen is once we get above that line, the rules change. And I think we need to have a pretty good idea of what we want to have happen and have pretty solid limits set on that.
And with a time frame, I think that's really what the graph is, try to clarify is as we go out the wedge, now you're out the wedge to the 10% line is actually in 2018.
Yep.
By the time we would hit it, if we consumed the red hash marks. So the steepness of the red line versus the black line tells you how much of the fund equity year over year you're going to use
Slope.
to not go to your 10%.
Yes.
And that's, when you're saying that, we need to manage the slope of those two lines.
Yeah, you're setting a slope.
We're setting a slope. That's your bottom line.
You're counting the shared service revenue. as part of this.
Absolutely.
And we all know that that potentially could be unsustainable money, right?
Absolutely.
So when we talk about going out to 18, 19, we don't know if that's going to be the case or not, right? So no matter what happens, I agree with you, I think we need some plan in place. But again, it may not grow to this extent if the state comes in and decides that we no longer can
And that
take the money that.
That's the decision. I think.
that would be an argument towards that piece of the pie
Getting
getting
to
smaller.
10% quicker than expanding other things. So I think that's, at least that's how I read the graph.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I guess the bottom line is that I think we want to, with great knowledge and foresight, try to set that slope thoughtfully rather than to just start picking off line items one at a time, and seeing that we just magically happen to hit it or come up to the limit.
Great. I'd like to see on that, putting in the data based on what we just talked about tonight as far as losing that 500 or 550 per class. As that goes down, can we also put that into that projection? to see how
We do
will-
that.
Right.
So when we bring you the budget, we'll lay out a budget with shared service in it and without. And so our goal is always to have, as Bill says, if shared service were to go away tomorrow, would we be okay? I think that's the general question we're all asking. We wouldn't be okay to the extent that we're okay with it. We'd have to generate something else, revenue-wise. And we'll show you one with it. And then you can make that decision. I almost equate this chart to what we did when we were in deficit. Because the 5 budget cycles that we used to get out of deficit, we could have possibly done in 1 year, but it would have been devastating to the district. If you remember those 5 budget cycles, we put all the choices up on the board. Are we going to eliminate athletics? Are we going to eliminate transportation? Are we going to raise our class sizes to 50? Are we going to cut pay for everybody by 20%? Are we going to eliminate all insurance? We could have been out of deficit in 6 months if we would have made those decisions. But again, the question, I think this, Dr. Chesney, is where you're going with it. The slope is the most important part because you have to align the slope with the palatability of the community. If we would have made those choices while we were in deficit, we would have lost hundreds and hundreds of students. Same thing on the other side, in terms of either spending or eliminating. It has to, we always say, we know we can push until we feel the pushback, and then we have to really address where the pushback's coming from and understand it before we can move on to the next piece. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about.
Well, I guess as a pushback, I'd like to see the declining enrollment is what I'm getting at. How would that affect that slope as well? Because we can't anticipate.
We offset our staffing. So when we do our enrollment, we know for the next 4 years that in district we're going to go 50 kids-ish, but we adjust staffing for that level, and we don't cover that with shared service in terms of that, because we separate. We have 2 different graphs that we look at: the enrollment and revenue from shared service, and the enrollment and revenue from the district. And that's why if we're going to say this year at 7,450 for enrollment, really in district we're at 6,000. Now next year, let's say we're at 5,950, because we'd be 50 different. That's why we're pushing school of choice, because I'd like to keep the district in district at 6,000. That's my goal, is if I can keep it flat, because you can't cut your way out of declining enrollment. So my goal is always to keep that flat. Flatter I can keep that, the better off long-term this district's going to be. So that's why we push so hard for school of choice.
I guess, I wanted to bring this up as an idea, and then as a follow-up to that, clearly we're not deciding on numbers tonight, but with the permission of the board, I'd like to work with Dr. Gistinger and Dr. Gray, and maybe we can come up with some predictive models of, what if the slope is 5% and 10% and 15%? What does that mean in terms of timing, and what does that mean in terms of programs that would be funded, programs that wouldn't. Yeah, additional dollars that we could spend. And I'm volunteering your time, Dr. Gistinger. Are you interested in?
Of course.
Okay. All right, so maybe we could come up with that and just say, this is what it would mean in terms of getting to that 10% fund equity if the wedge is 5%.
I think we prioritize that in a list form with the strategic plan.
Yes.
Because that's how it's all going to be tied together
Yes.
eventually. So if we're looking up there and we're seeing that the community wants us to invest in CTE, STEM, and foreign language, and we agree on the slope and we have additional dollars, well then that's where the community's telling us to invest.
Yes.
And so on and so on.
They are telling you, because that's what I brought forward, and I talked to Laura about doing some matching grant stuff.
Sure.
I think she brought that to you, where I said if we put up $1 million, we go to a big number, and we go to someone and say, well, can we do matching grant developments? And I think that, and again, I see the point, but in my opinion, this driven economy within our school, because of the work that everybody's done outside the box, along with looking at the survey data, along with where we're heading, I think that, right up front, you meet your fund equity goals, which not Laura, but Dr. Gessinger has been right on, and what she's been doing within your 0.1%, right? Right? Okay. So then we can plan.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
Plan now. You can't plan the day you get there. And then there may be things that come off that, things that come off the plan, but I'm all in as far as building buildings with taxpayers' money, not raising taxes, and don't run out for it. I hear some discussion about everybody needs a sinking fund right now. Well, son of a gun, we probably don't, and in my opinion. And I'd even throw in driver's ed right now. Let's pay for driver's ed for all our students. Just hang on.
No.
Just hang on. Watch this. Watch this. When I went to high school, driver's ed was paid for. How was yours?
It was federally subsidized.
I like
back
that
then.
too. Then
Then get the government to subsidize it.
Okay, well, hang on. Hang on. But they paid for our teachers to work during the summer.
Yeah.
We had exceptional driver's ed programs. Mark
I agree.
Carroll was my teacher. Okay, Mark was a great baseball coach and football and everything else. He was great to have as a teacher. So that's all I have to say about that. But if we can, I'm sorry to step you off the cliff, Dr.
Oh, no,
But
you're fine.
That's fine. You just got to square it up, and we'll meet in the middle on it. But services for students. Okay, and the parents pay, and pay. They pay in their property taxes. They pay and pay and pay. So whatever we can do that gives our students more services to help more of them get the services. Some can afford them, some can't. Some stretch to get a car bought. Others, it's no big deal. The gift of public education, I'm sure of it, is that all students are included. I don't think there's any doubt anybody up on this board disagrees with that. I think we all have that same mission. They are all included. So that's how I would envision how this goes and how our dollars get spent. And as far as I'm concerned, it's as much as we can get back to the students as possible without increasing the burden on their parents any further. And I think that drives, again, back to our 400 and some number we may settle with. Maybe we'll go to 550. Maybe we'll go to 5 just because of what the attitude is here in Brighton area schools. Differently than maybe outside of our community. We're serious about it, and I think everybody here is serious in their own way. Disagree or disagree, I think we have the same mission for what's best for the students. So.
I think we got a lot to bring to the 25th.
Well, and that's what I was
Hey,
asking.
at least we're having this discussion.
Isn't that where you're going to decide really who takes on these different assignments?
Yeah, that'll be kind of part of the strategy is here's the things we want to do, here's what we want the slope, here's when we want to get somewhere as a board. Then we start dissecting down to actions out of there. But I think the work session is going to be more of what are we going to put on paper, what do we agree to go forward, and then we'll start whittling away at how we're going to do it.
Yep.
That's what I envision.
I also, if I could just add to that, the board asked Dr. Gray and I to distribute a SWOT analysis, SWOT analysis, and so I sent that out to building principals and directors before spring break. I got asked for them back today. I don't know if I got half of them, but we got a lot back. Really thoughtful work done so far. I told them that I wanted to have it done, maybe it's next Monday, maybe it's the 20th, because we wanted about 5 times, here or there, 5 days for us to look at those before you guys work with them that Saturday. But we're getting some good things back on that, and that's a great start.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I just,
Okay.
so,
Nope, that's You know, it's nice to be able to talk about what we're going to do with
From
some
where we've
money
been?
that we
Are you
have.
kidding me?
We don't all have to agree right here, but it's
Yeah.
nice to even talk about.
If you remember,
Just don't bully me, okay,
No,
Jay?
it's great.
5-6 years ago, if you remember, these are the meetings this time of year when we were laying off 80 and 100 people.
Yeah, we're meeting till 11 o'clock at night, gnashing of teeth,
So much better.
all of that. Okay. Superintendent.
Yeah, a couple things, ties right into what John was talking about and others about LaTeX. I have the contract, it's a 5-year renewal, I need to sign that, so I'm hearing consensus on we continue moving forward with LaTeX, so I don't think we need to discuss that any further. The only other thing you asked me to check into, and I did that in terms of the bills, formerly SHW, now Stantec, the $150,000 that we talked about earlier. I talked to Gordon Van Weeren, he's our contract attorney. He recommended to me that we need to sit down with representatives from Stantec and representatives from the district with him there, and I'm sure they'll have their attorneys there as well, and work through that situation. That's what he recommended to me. So you guys can do what you want with it, give me a direction, and then we'll do it.
And we need to do what's right, I think. You know, I mean, I'm not an expert on it. I don't know who else. I mean, I know Bill.
You're not committing to anything if you sit at the table and talk about it, but it's other than you're committing to legal fees.
That's what I was going to say. So
you are.
In your view, are we going to spend $5,000 investigating it?
No, I would say it'd probably take an hour, maybe 2, so you're looking between $250 to $500.
So it's not a lot of research for the attorneys to do? Or?
We've already done all that. We don't send anything to the attorneys until we've done all our research on it, because we know, and we talk real fast when we call on the phone. Because if you remember, 6 years ago, we used to spend $250,000 on legal fees. We spent $30,000 or less, and typically they're tied to special education issues.
On that note, we didn't add that to your list because that didn't come up. But in the legal fees in the last 5 years in the district, Dr. Gessinger, what have they been?
Insignificant, maybe 30,000 at most, and most of them are special ed issues that we can't dodge.
Prior to that, our legal fees were $250,000 a year.
They were very high.
We had a guy sitting on the board.
Yes, they were $250,000 a year, and so back to another positive thing for our superintendent, and back to justifying. I've got a few emails on justifications from last week's or a couple weeks ago decision and things, and I responded with those lists of things and those job titles and the hats that have been taken on. So I would take an administrative poll, though. It's everyone. It's not just our superintendent.
It is.
It takes everyone that's included, and I think
We also filter everybody now with legal fees. They have to come through one source.
When Mrs. Moyer was retiring the other day, she played an important part in changing the mindset on that several years ago, and I think that she did a great job for us. So there you go. Thank you.
So I'll set up that meeting. If Mr. Kraus, you could let me know the representatives, no more than 3 from the board that would like to be a part of that meeting, I'd appreciate that.
If you've got interest, just let me know between now and then. We'll put together.
That's all I have.
I have a question for you, Dr. Gray. Just from the goal setting that we did previously, we came up with what I thought was a really nice set of promises, kind of Brighton Board of Education promises. And I know we had talked about getting those printed up and nice display right here behind the board. Is that something that we can do?
Yeah, so I sent out the edits right after the meeting. I haven't received anything but positive feedback on the edits, so if you'd like me to move forward with making that sign, I can do that, but I didn't want to spend the money on it until we have this next discussion. So give me some direction on that.
Well, how about if we finalize that during the 25th workshop? I agree. Yep. That'd be the right place to take the second action.
I can turn one of those signs around in a week.
Okay. Anything for human resources?
It's getting to a busy time of year. I mean, we have a staffing meeting this week. We're doing evals, lots and lots of evals. We're working through lots of HR stuff, but we're on top of it. We're good in relation to it, and I don't foresee any issues. The good part is, again, this year we'll be doing some hiring. I'm really looking forward to doing some more hiring. I feel like a genius when we hire now, but it's way easier, so I'm not, because the pool is getting deeper. For a while there, everybody was moving out of state, and I feel pretty good. It's pretty easy to select a pretty high quality candidate now. Obviously, we still do our due diligence, but even for the Hilton principal job, I have gotten dozens and dozens and dozens of interested applicants. many of whom have lots of experience. If we were to post that job 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we wouldn't have gotten many because people were fearful of the direction we were headed. So I'm pretty excited about that. We'll probably interview in May. We should be bringing a recommendation, I would say, either end of May or beginning of June, so that particular candidate has all summer to work on his or her building and getting ready for the fall. So we're pretty excited about that.
Jay, I'd like to go back to the comment about with the attorneys. I really don't think it's our proof of the burden that it's up to Brighton area schools to question these invoices. I believe the burden of the proof needs to be on SHW. And I don't think by us coming together to sit down, I'd much rather see them come with their burden of proof to us as the normal course should take.
I can invite them to the next meeting.
I'm following you, so.
Would you like me to invite them to the next meeting then? And we could have them present?
I'd love to have them here, because I'd have all sorts of questions for them.
But maybe what we want to do is ahead of that, maybe have them prepare a response to saying, item A, dollar this is why we justify it before.
How about this?
Yeah.
We're pretty in tune with this situation. How about I craft a meeting with board representatives without our attorney there? Then it's just our time. You're not paying anything additional in terms of attorney fees. And then if there's an additional meeting needed, and again, you can't make any decisions at that meeting anyways because you're not a full board, we'll bring them to this board meeting and they can present as well.
I guess we just want to make sure they show up understanding we want them to justify why they.
I can make that crystal clear.
I think that's it.
And in that same line of thought, the hours spent documented, the payrolls, the certified payrolls that show that those dollars were spent, their times, their timesheets, all that kind of stuff that corresponds with what they're asking.
Yep. I think we can ask for that, and maybe that is better we do it
And
once.
again, I don't think it's up to us to be asking for that.
No, you're right. They should present us
That's
why we should make that payment in lieu of that. We probably should.
That's correct.
Nope, I don't think there's nobody has that.
No, I think that's.
So in the next 2 weeks, I'll handle that. And if we need them to come to the meeting, then I'll invite them to the meeting.
Okay.
Does that sound fair?
I think that's a smart move.
Okay. Then we don't spend any money except my time, which is fine.
Well, and it shows goodwill that we're willing to discuss.
Mhm.
We don't need the attorneys in the room, but if they're, and to your point, I agree, Bill, I'm not disagreeing with your point.
But here's what we're doing. We're actually putting the cart before the horse, because we still have a year left of this bond that we're going to continue to work with these people.
Maybe.
And I don't see why right now in the middle that this would start to become an issue right now. It would be a lot easier and a lot cleaner, but at the end of the day, because you think it's going to end here, because I'll guarantee you what's going to happen. If for some reason this board decides to pay, what do you think is going to happen for the next year and a half?
Well, the reason, and tying into that, the reason I would like to bring this issue to an end is because, what was the name of the document for Series 3 that we just got? There's a document we just got from the company that has a sign-on for additional services for 3, which we didn't sign, obviously. So we need to bring this whole issue to the end, and then we can move forward. We're not designing 3 right now anyways. That'll happen through next school year and then into the summer. So I think when we have this issue, we can make final decisions at that point.
Yeah, makes sense.
So you're okay with it, Bill? Is
What's that?
What we're doing the next step, or you still don't think that's necessary?
Again,
It's up to them.
I don't think we have any burden of proof whatsoever.
They need to convince us otherwise. Or,
Correct.
okay.
It's not like we haven't had this discussion.
Yeah, I have something. Dr. Gistinger gave me a copy of the I asked her for it, the contract that we signed with the architectural firm, Shaw, SHW. And I'm on the building committee now. I'd like time, and I think we should discuss this again, and look at it again, and look at the original document to see what the original language was.
It's right there in that
I
document.
know, but I haven't,
I think
I
it's
just got
explained
it.
pretty clearly, though. It's a percentage of of what the
well,
amount
they
spent.
have individual jobs listed, and then
Well,
hiring extra,
but-
like structural engineers and things like that.
But if you look under basic services, you'll see that's included, okay, under basic services. Where you want to look is at the end of the contract, where it specifies the amount of bond dollars spent, which is, they spelled out 66 million, whatever. You look at their 5.43%, which gives you a lump sum number of this amount, 3 million, whatever, for design fees, based on that 66 million. And again, I'm saying we've never spent over that, and if you also read in there, any additional work that they're supposed to perform, or that they were gonna perform, they had to supply an estimate to us, and someone had to sign off on that work before they did it. And I don't recall seeing any of that anywhere.
So that's the kind of discussion we need to have, I think.
But again, I think it's up to them to make the
Convince us
case.
otherwise or not. Okay. I appreciate the
Thank you.
conversation.
Thank you.
This has obviously been a little bit of a contentious one, and we should put it to bed properly, I believe.
You never make it through one of these without. Been doing this a long time.
Anything else, Dr. Gray?
Nope, we're good.
Student representative. You doing all right?
Yeah, doing good. So like Dr. Suri said, this week at the high school, all the juniors will be taking the M-STEP exams. AP testing also begins the first week of May. Many teachers are trying to cram in as much last-minute learning as possible, so that's always fun. Brighton's prom will be Saturday, May 16th at Crystal Gardens. Before the actual dance, however, there will be a prom fashion show Thursday, April 23rd in the BCP at 7. Both the dance and the fashion show are put on by our high school's junior class council. Also coming up is Brighton's talent show, which will be May 1st at 7. And then the last thing that I have to talk about today is this year Exec Board is organizing Brighton's first Lip Dub. Many other high schools put on this event in which various high school students lip sync. Students are videotaped walking through the hallways, singing to different songs, all the while showcasing different clubs and sports teams that VHS has to offer. I will be more than happy to show you all the final product, assuming that all goes according to plan.
It's a good marketing.
A
A lot of schools have used it as a really good marketing tool. You put it on your main page, kind of highlights the great things. And, Ryan's about 30 days from graduation, so he's been doing a lot of great things in our school with the exec board and that, so I just want to recognize Ryan for that.
Thank you, Dr. Gray.
Thank you very much. You have anything else?
That's it.
Okay, that brings us to a time for the second call to the public. If you'd like to address the board at this time, please come to the podium, state your name, your address, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
Hi, Kara Totero, 4095 Dominion Boulevard, Brighton. I know I'm not supposed to ask questions, but I have a question about talking about shared services, and there always seems to be a comment of what happens if this goes away. Is there any indication that any of you have gotten in the past that it's going to go away?
No.
Okay.
Program's decades old. It's rich in the Constitution, so we don't see it, but we can't predict the future.
Right. Thank you.
Because no one's doing it like we're doing it.
More people have caught on lately, but not to the extent.
My market's drying up.
We gotta steal from others now.
Can we go into Ohio?
Different angle.
Toledo?
Pretty much.
I want Traverse City. I want one in Traverse City as well.
Well, tomorrow I'm actually going to Merrill because we picked up a school in Saginaw. It's like, I just keep wondering where the end of this is.
Cross the bridge. We'll go across Gwynn. We'll be up in Gwynn, the Gauntlet.
When you're driving 2 hours to get to your school that you're assisting, you know you're pretty big.
I see no one else. That closes our second call to the public. Now our last issue is closed session.
I'd like to make a motion that we enter closed session for the approval of the March 23rd, 2015 closed minutes, and for the purpose of discussing negotiation strategies connected to BASAA BEA and the BESPA bargaining units, inasmuch as the administration has requested a closed session.
Second. Motion is a second. Any discussion? Sorry, you need a roll call, please.
Mr. Birchfield? Mr. Birchfield? Yes. Mr. Conley?
Yes.
Mr. Trombley?
Yes.
Mrs. Minert? Yes. Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Dr. Chesney?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
Yes. We'll take 5 minutes, and we don't anticipate anything after our closed session.
Yeah, we'll get you some.